let's come to the topic quickly. So we understand that um, means the author stated that to validate his suspicion means Charlie's suspicion. So what happened? He went to the newspaper boy, right? Why? Not to realize that means in which era he was. So he went to the boy and he found out that who was selling the means newspaper, and he found out that the newspaper name was written the World, a newspaper which was discontinued many years ago. So there were some headlines about the then President Cleveland, right? Then President Cleveland means at that time, so whoever was the president, so his name was written and the date was mentioned, that was called as 11th June 1894. Now he was sure. He was now sure, right? And what did he do? Now immediately he went to the ticket window. Why? Now to get the tickets for Galesburg, Illinois, right? So for him and his wife, and it was a wonderful town with a lot of greenery, right? So greenery in the sense called as a vegetation, so full means how the area is circulated with the trees and bushes, right? He was well aware that from here one could buy tickets that would take them anywhere in the United States. He describes how things were in 1984 before the two world wars took place. Now, obviously, you must have remembered that two world war, World War One and World War Two. Do you know the date? When did it take place? Which year? The two world war?
1945. No, 45, I guess.
No. The First World War occurred in the year of 1914 to 1918, 4 years, right? 3 months and, 4 years, 6 months, 3 weeks, right? The First World War. The Second World War occurred in the year of 1939. Okay. So, because after the First World War, the peace treaty was issued in the year of 1919. Right. And 1939, the Second World War occurred. Okay. And it ended somehow called as, maybe you were telling about 1945. So, but 1945 was not the war occurred. So the First World War, 1914, Second World War, 1939. Okay, leave it. So I just ask you to, so whether you have some knowledge about the general knowledge or not, general awareness. Okay, no issue. So what do we draw here? We draw that he went to the ticket window to get the tickets for Galesburg, Illinois, for him and his wife. It was a wonderful town with a lot of greenery, and he was well aware that from here he could buy ticket that would take them, means him and his wife, anywhere in the United States. And he describes how things were in the year of 1984 before the two world wars took place. Evenings were two times as long as they are now, and men and women living in peace and serenity. So that's what is the environment. But at today means लगता जैसा कि बहुत शोर शराबा, not that peace, right? So the clerk figured the fare. He looked at means Charlie's fancy hat band. Fancy hat band means that's something called as a beautiful decorated hat band. But he figured the fare, right? And it is pointed, I had enough for 2 coach tickets one way. But when I counted out the money and looked up, the clerk was looking at me. He nodded at the bills. Right? That is not money, mister, he said. And if you are trying to skin me means called as a cheat me, you won't get very far. And he looked at the cash drawer beside him. He looked at the cash drawer beside him. Of course, the money was old style bill, half again as big as the money we use nowadays and different looking. I turned away and go out fast. Right there, there is nothing nice about jail even in 1894. Now you understood that? Means the problem was what? Now the clerk, means, sorry, Charlie wanted to take 2 tickets and wanted to go. But the problem was he had the money, and that money was the present day money, not the then era money, right? So obviously here when the clerk counted the fare, he looked at the fancy headband of Charlie, and also found out that uh, the amount Charlie had, which was enough for one-sided journey. But as the clerk took out the money, the clerk informed that this is not the kind of a note or money which is acceptable legally, right? And by any chance, if he is trying to cheat or smart, so he would not be go very far or to escape with it or escape from it. So he looked at his cash drawer and realized that currency he looked, means who, that's something called as a you can say that Charlie, right? And found out that means the kind of a money or note or currency means kept there was different and almost double the size of the money means which he carried. So he ran out because he did not want to go to jail in the year of 1894, because he felt the time was not nice and jail condition was also not nice. And that was that. The Charlie also stated here, I left the same way I came. I suppose next day during lunch hour, I drew $300 out of the bank, right? Nearly all we had, and bought old style currency that really worried my psychiatrist. Means you can say that, and bought old style currency. And when I did something, so obviously ये क्या करेगा, definitely आपके आसपास जो लोग हैं, so it will create them a kind of a stress that why did he means exchange the note with the new note with the old currency. So you can buy old money at almost any kind dealers. So that's what means who Charlie was telling. So, but you have to pay a premium. My $300 bought less than 200 in old style bills, right? So, but I did not care. Eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. Eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. So you would find out that means uh, Charlie wanted to say that he was so passionate uh, to go to that place or to go to that dream. So, as we understood that the day ended after he came out from the place, the next day he went to withdraw his money and his entire savings, and got those savings converted into buying old money. So, um, with the same amount of premium, it cost him much, and even he was worried, right? He was means sorry, who was actually means it is his friend Sam, who was the psychiatrist who worried about means Charlie, but he still went with it. Back then, so Charlie also thought that at means there is nothing wrong in it. So because the cost of the eggs was somehow called as 13 cents a dozen, right? So the author stated here that Charlie has never again found the corridor that leads to the third level at Grand Central Station. Although he has tried often enough, Louisa was pretty worried when I told her all this, right? And did not want Charlie to look for the third level anymore. And after a while, I stopped. Means who stopped? Charlie stopped going. So you realize that what happened? Now he exchanged the money. So, and what did he do? Now, means he thought that he would go with the old money and will will visit to that the third level. But what happened here, the interesting thing happened that he had never again found the corridor that actually took him to the third level at Grand Central Station. Although he had tried often enough, right? So Luisa was pretty worried and means, did not want him to do that, right? To go to that third level. And Charlie also did the same. He did not go after that. He went back to his stamps, but now what happened means they are both looking every weekend because now they have proved that the third level is still there. My friend Sam Werner disappeared. Nobody knew where he was, but Charlie suspected because Sam's a city boy. Sam is a city boy, and I used to tell him about Galesburg. I went to school there, and he always said he liked the sound of the place, and that is where he is. All right, in 1894. So, what do you find out here? Means we understood that when Charlie unfortunately means realized that he could not find out the third level corridor, right? Even if he did a very hard effort. So his wife also approached him that not to search for that place, right? So when she came to know about her husband's condition, so and requested him not to look for that place. So even Charlie also stopped doing that, right? And Charlie means wanted to distract his attention for any other things like what? Na, to go for the stamps with the help of stamps. Somehow, means Sam the psychiatrist. Here you find out who is the good friend of means Charlie. So disappeared out of the blue. Disappeared out of the blue means he was means abruptly disappeared. Charlie thought that he had gone to Galesburg. He finds himself in the time space of 1894. So that's what is the kind of a thought of Charlie. Because what? Why did he think that? Now, because one night, fussing with my stamp collection, I found as well. Do you know what a first day coverage? When a new stamp is issued, stamp collectors buy some and use them to mail envelopes to themselves on the very first day of sale. And the postmark proves the date. So the envelope is called a first day cover. So they are never opened. You just put blank paper in the envelope, right? So when you say that one night fussing with my stamp collection. So fussing means called as a that kind of a unnecessary argument or unnecessary thought, right? So who was concerning for unnecessary thought? Charlie. Charlie came across a means a first day cover. It is an envelope, right? So and it all happened on one night. So and he found out that it is an envelope with a stamp on it, and that stamp collectors mail to themselves on the first day of its sale to mark the date. So it was also the date was marked. They are just blank inside and are not meant to be opened. That night means among my oldest first day covers, I found one that should not have been there, but there it was. It was there because someone had mailed it to my grandfather at his home in Galesburg, right? So that's what the address on the envelope said, and it had been there since July 18, 1894. The postmark showed that. But yet I did not remember it at all. The stamp was a 6 cent. 6 cent is the currency or value. Uh, Dull brown with a picture of President Garfield. Naturally, when the envelope came to granddad, means whose granddad? Charlie's granddad in the mail. It went right into his collection and stayed there. It went right into his collection and stayed there. So who means granddad's collection and stayed there. Till I took it out and opened it, the paper inside was not blank. It read, उसमें कुछ लिखा गया था. So what did actually Charlie want to point out? Charlie wanted to point out means if you talk about the situation, right? So he realized that means he stated that how one night he was concerning with the stamp collection and how did he find out an envelope, and inside the envelope there was a blank paper in the envelope, right? And he found out a stamp collection means a date was mentioned. So that night he found by surprise one of his grandfather's old first day covers, and someone had mailed to his father at his home at Galesburg. As he saw from the address on the envelope, so the postmark showed that it had been there since 18 July 1894. And the stamp had a picture of whom? Means the president of that country. So President Garfield on it, and it was a 6-cent cost. It appears like a dull brown color stamp, and his grandfather had put it in his stamp collection. So which one? Now that envelope where the stamp was put, and means the Charlie now discovered that particular envelope at that time. The paper inside and a letter written it. The letter was written. What is the letter written? Now, the format of the place, date, and means the name. So it was written that 941 Villiers Street, Galesburg, Illinois, July 18, 1894. So the letter was in the name of Charlie. So Charlie, I got to wishing that you were right. I got to wishing that you were right. Then I got to believing you were right. And Charlie, it is true. I found the third label. I have been here 2 weeks, and right now, down the street at the Dallies, someone is playing a piano, and they are all out on the front porch singing "Sing Nelly Home," and I am invited over for lemonade. Come on back, Charlie and Luisa. Keep looking till you find the third label. It is worth it. It is worth. It is worth it. Believe me. Now, this is the kind of a letter which was written. Now, and the note is signed, right? So the note is signed by whom? Sam. Okay. So what did the letter say actually? The letter talked about how the writer wished his third label story was true. So how the writer wished his third label story was true. That's what it is written. I got to wishing that you were right. Right. So until he actually started believing it to be true. So, and Charlie, it is true. I found the third label. So he had, why did he say that? Now he said that means when he had found the third label and had been there for 2 weeks. And that's why he describes the place he was at that time. He asked Charlie and Louis to never stop searching for the third label and come back. Right. And the note is signed by Sam. At the stamp and coin store I go to, I found out that Sam bought $800 worth of old style currency. At the stamp and coin store I go to, I found out that Sam bought $800 worth of old style currency that required to set him up in a nice little hay Hemans called as a careless, feed, and grain business. He always said that is what he really wished he could do, and he surely can't go back to his old business. Not in Galesburg, Illinois in 1894, his old business. Why? Sam was my psychiatrist. Now, the story ends here, but created a kind of a suspicious. So, you found out that the letter that Charlie got, so that letter had been signed up as Sam. Who is Sam? Sam was a psychiatrist. And Charlie found out from the coin store. And which coin store we were talking about? Now, the coin store Charlie used to visit. Right. So he used to visit that Sam had bought old currency worth $800. And Sam means bought old currency worth $800 from that same what? Means the same coin store, which was to be utilized in a hay, means those currency or means those old currency was used in a careless manner, feed and grain business, which what he always wished to do. Who always wished to do? So means Sam wished to do. He could not go back to his old business, surely not in Galesburg, Illinois. Who could not go back to his old business? Means Sam. The story ends at a mysterious note. What was that mysterious note? Where Charlie is wondering that Sam is psychiatrist. So Charlie is wondering what? That Sam is a psychiatrist. Now, if you observe that, what does the last means idea of the paragraph indicate? Yeah. Hello? Yeah, Aditi.
Yes, sir.
What do you think the last paragraph indicating?
Sir, I think I need few moments, please.
See, if
Sir,
you see the way Charlie discovered Sam's letter, it was peculiar, isn't it? Something like a odd. It was one of those first day covers people used to mail to themselves back in time with a blank page inside. So to begin with, the cover had a letter in it and not a blank page in it. Secondly, the letter dates back to 18 July 1894. Right. So when Sam, the writer on the letter, did not exist, when Sam, the writer of the letter, did not exist because both Sam and Charlie exist in the present times. Therefore, it is sound to come to the conclusion that it was just a product of Charlie's imagination. It was just a means discovery of what? Charlie's imagination. Do you understand that?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's what we could draw here, because we found out that what? Now we found out means who found the letter? That means Charlie found the letter. And what was that letter is? The letter was somehow called as a odd, right? So how did people mail the letter at that time? People, it is the writer suggested that, or writer told that means those days people used to mail to themselves back in time with a blank page inside. So to begin with, the cover had a letter in it, and means the kind of a letter Charlie got, it was not a blank page in it. Secondly, the letter dates back to 18 July 1894. So it means it was the time of somehow called as a means very long time ago. And when you talk about Sam, because the letter was written by whom? Sam. To whom he wrote? He wrote to Charlie. So Sam, who was the writer's friend, when Sam, the writer of the letter, so who did not exist then, because both Sam and Charlie exist in the present time. Therefore, how could Sam went back to the past and wrote the letter to Charlie? So it means if Charlie thought about that, so we knew that Charlie was in hallucination, and it was nothing but means the letter was the product of Charlie's imagination, and Charlie must have written by himself only. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Or anything that you feel or you understood? Can you tell?
I do think the same.
What do you think then?
So I said I do think the same.
Okay, you do think the same. Yeah, so you would find out many of the things in this particular story actually. You would find out that there are a lot of examples means that give us about means the interesting part of this story. It's called as a means the interval of time and space in the story, right? So if you talk about the interval of time and space in the story, so if I take you to the first one, means where first intersection being the one between the first two levels of the Grand Central Station, and its a third level, which is based somewhere in the 1890s. The first intersection that can be taken into the means between the first two levels of the Grand Central Station, and its a third level, which is based somewhere in the 1890s. Whereas the former exists in present times. The Grand Central, right, is present in the means exist in the present times. Also, when Charlie went to buy tickets for Galesburg, which existed in 1894, while he and his wife exist in the present times. So, you can say that means not to ignore the old-fashioned architecture of the third level in contradiction to modern interiors of the first two levels. So, couple of things are there which are creating the division between time and space. I think there is a question also you would find out in your book that indicates about intersection of time and space in the story. So when it is stated about intersection of time and space in the story, so you can talk about many differentiation that were found means between the time and space in the story. So one is called as a things present in the time, right? So, and things which are imagined and considered existed in the past, right? So, and the examples are like, when talking about first two levels of the Grand Central Station, which was existed in the present, and considered that third level, which was existed somewhere in the 1890. That is the first one. The second part is called as when Charlie went to buy tickets for Galesburg, so which existed in 1894, Galesburg, we were talking about. So while he and his wife, so Charlie and his wife, both were exist in the present time. So Even you also find out old-fashioned architecture of the third level, which is contradicting to modern interiors of the first two levels. And finally, the letter that also dated 18 July 1982 that Charlie found also throws lights upon the intersection of time and space, as both the sender, who Sam, the psychiatrist, and Charlie, the hallucinated person, the receiver. So they both were exist in the present time, but the letter was past. So that's what is called as a time and space in the story. Understood the examples which can be found from the text?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. If you have some doubts or queries, can you, if you like, then you can ask.